My beloved child, something quietly shifted when you stopped trying to force what was meant to recognize you naturally. And this is where the big news begins. Your soulmate is happier than they have been in a very long time, but the reason is not what most people would guess. It is not because everything suddenly became perfect. It is not because every unanswered question disappeared overnight. It is because you finally did something they had been waiting to see. Not from pressure, not from expectation, but from your own inner growth. Stay a little longer, because the smallest change you made may have created the biggest change in how they now see you. There was a moment when your soulmate realized that your energy felt different. You were no longer chasing every explanation. You were no longer allowing uncertainty to decide your value. Instead, you began choosing yourself, your peace, your direction, your confidence, your future. And somehow, that reached them without you needing to announce it. Think about that. What if the thing that finally opened their heart was not something you said, but something you stopped needing to prove? That realization has changed the entire picture for them. They are beginning to understand that your strength was never about being distant. It was about becoming clear. But don't skip what comes next, because there is another layer to this. Your soulmate had formed an old picture of you in their mind. They thought they understood how you would react, how long you would wait, and what you would accept. Then you surprised them. You began moving differently. Calmly. Purposefully. Almost as though some future version of you had stepped forward and whispered, "There is more ahead." Your soulmate noticed. And instead of pushing them away, this awakened something hopeful inside them. For the first time, they could imagine a connection built not on uncertainty, but on two people choosing growth. Here is where everything becomes even more interesting. Their happiness is connected to one specific realization: you finally stopped shrinking your future to fit an unfinished chapter. You started becoming someone who could walk forward whether anyone followed or not. And strangely, that is exactly what made your presence feel more meaningful to them. Something huge is waiting for you in this story, because their happiness is only the first sign. A decision is forming behind it. Picture the next chapter for a moment. Different conversations. Different timing. Different choices. Your soulmate is beginning to imagine what would happen if both of you approached the connection without the old assumptions. They are seeing possibilities they once overlooked. They are remembering details about you that suddenly carry new meaning. A sentence you once said. A moment when you stayed composed. A choice you made when nobody expected it. Pieces that once seemed unrelated are beginning to connect. And now comes the question that could change how you understand everything: what exactly did you finally do that made them this happy? You may think you already know, but wait till the final moment. The answer goes deeper than confidence, distance, or personal growth. Your soulmate has recognized something about your character that they can no longer ignore, and once that recognition fully settles in, their next move may be completely different from anything you expected. Stay till the end of this unfolding message, because the real surprise is not simply that your soulmate is happier than ever. It is what this happiness has inspired them to finally consider doing next. And when you discover the missing piece behind that decision, you will understand why this change in you arrived at exactly the right moment. Something unexpected has begun to make sense to your soulmate, and this is where the story turns in a direction they never prepared for. They have finally understood that the change they noticed in you was not temporary. You did not simply become quieter for a moment. You became clearer about what deserves your energy. You finally stopped measuring your worth through someone else's response, and that realization brought your soulmate an unexpected kind of happiness. Why? Because suddenly they could see the real you without all the uncertainty surrounding the connection. Stay a little longer, because what they understood next is the part that completely changed their perspective. They realized you were never asking for perfection. You were looking for sincerity, consistency, and a connection where both people could grow without losing themselves. And once they understood that, many memories began returning with completely different meanings. Here is the surprising part: your soulmate has been mentally revisiting moments they once considered ordinary. A conversation where you listened more carefully than they realized. A time you remained patient when it would have been easier to misunderstand. A moment when you chose dignity instead of trying to prove a point. Those memories now look different because your soulmate can finally see the pattern behind them. Don't skip this moment. They are beginning to recognize that the quality they were searching for was quietly present in you all along. And that recognition is creating excitement about what could happen next. They are not simply thinking about what happened before, they are imagining what could be built differently from here. What if the future they once considered impossible was never impossible at all? What if both of you simply needed to grow enough to recognize it? Your soulmate is happier because they can finally imagine a version of this connection that feels lighter, clearer, and more genuine. And somewhere inside that happiness, a new decision has started forming. But there is one detail they have not fully revealed yet. Your soulmate has realized that you finally did something they once hoped you would do: you chose your own direction without closing your heart to possibility. That combination surprised them. Strength without bitterness. Independence without pretending nothing mattered. Forward movement without needing to erase every meaningful memory. Something huge is waiting for you, because this is precisely what made them reconsider their next step. They are beginning to wonder whether the right move is no longer to wait for another perfect moment, but to communicate with greater honesty when the opportunity appears. And if this message connects with something you have been learning about yourself, you can share it, leave your thoughts, or subscribe so you can continue this journey with the next chapter. Because before this story reaches its turning point, there is one more revelation you need to hear. Your soulmate's happiness is not only about who you have become. It is about what your transformation has made them realize about themselves. Stay till the end, because that realization changes everything that comes next. Now the hidden piece is beginning to surface, and it changes the meaning of everything that came before. Your soulmate has been looking inward, asking a question they once avoided: if this person could grow, become clearer, and move forward with confidence. What am I willing to change within myself? That question became a turning point. Your transformation did not simply make them notice you differently, it encouraged them to examine their own choices. And suddenly, their happiness makes sense. They are beginning to believe that the next chapter does not have to repeat the previous one. Stay a little longer, because the realization forming inside them is much bigger than nostalgia. They are seeing possibility where they once saw uncertainty. There is something else they have finally understood about you. You never needed dramatic promises. What mattered was authenticity. You wanted actions that matched words, clarity that replaced guessing, and a connection where neither person had to become smaller just to keep the other close. Your soulmate can see that now. Don't skip this part, because one memory keeps returning to them with unusual clarity. It was a moment when you could have demanded an answer, yet you chose patience. At the time, they may not have understood the strength behind that choice. Now they do. They recognize that your calmness was never weakness. It was self-respect. And realizing this has made them wonder how differently everything could unfold if they met you with that same level of maturity. But wait, the biggest shift is still ahead. Your soulmate is no longer thinking only about what they feel. They are thinking about what they can genuinely bring into your life. That distinction matters. Feelings can create beautiful possibilities, but meaningful connections grow through consistency, communication, and mutual choice. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that happiness is not something they should expect you to create for them. It is something two people can bring together while still remaining whole individually. Something huge is waiting for you, because this understanding has changed the question inside their mind from, "Will this connection return?" to, "If another opportunity appears, will I be ready to show up differently?" And this is where your own journey becomes even more important. You finally stopped waiting for someone else's decision before continuing your life. You began building your own direction. Your goals became louder than your doubts. Your peace became more valuable than endless guessing. And ironically, the moment you stopped trying to control the outcome was the moment your soulmate could finally see what made you extraordinary in the first place. Not perfection. Not performance. Your ability to keep becoming more fully yourself. Before you go, hear this line carefully: their happiness is not the ending of this story. It is the beginning of a choice. Somewhere between remembering who you were and noticing who you have become, your soulmate has started imagining one conversation they never thought they would be ready to have. They are thinking about what they would say differently, what they would finally acknowledge, and what they would no longer leave unclear. Stay till the end of this journey, because the next revelation is not about whether destiny will magically decide everything for you. It is about something far more powerful. Two people becoming capable of making clearer choices for themselves. And your soulmate may finally be approaching the moment when they decide exactly what their next choice will be. A completely different possibility has entered your soulmate's mind, and once it appeared, they could not simply ignore it. Until now, they had been looking backward, remembering conversations, reconsidering choices, connecting moments they once misunderstood. But something has changed. They are looking forward now. They are wondering what could happen if the next interaction between you carried none of the confusion of the past. No pretending. No unnecessary guessing. Just two people meeting each other with greater clarity than before. And this is why their happiness has become so powerful. They finally understand that your growth was never a signal for them to chase you. It was an invitation for them to grow too. Don't skip what comes next, because one particular realization has completely reshaped the future they imagine. Your soulmate has discovered that what impressed them most was not how much you cared, it was that you finally learned how to care without abandoning your own direction. There is a difference, and they can see it now. You can value someone while still protecting your goals. You can remember meaningful moments while continuing to build tomorrow. You can remain open to possibility without putting your entire future on hold. That balance changed something inside them. Suddenly, they stopped asking, "How do I get things back exactly as they were?" and started asking, "What could we create if everything became better than it was?" Stay a little longer. That question matters because it means they are no longer dreaming about repeating an old chapter. They are imagining a completely new one. And then came the thought they were not expecting. What if your greatest gift to this connection was never waiting, it was evolving? What if seeing you become more confident gave them permission to become more honest with themselves? That thought has stayed with them. It has made them happier because they finally understand that real connection should expand two lives, not pause them. Something huge is waiting for you here. They have begun preparing themselves emotionally for a different kind of conversation. Not a dramatic moment filled with impossible promises, but something quieter and more meaningful. A conversation where intentions become clearer. Where questions can finally be answered without games. Where both people are free to decide what genuinely belongs in their future. If this journey has reminded you of your own growth, you can share it with someone who might need that reminder, leave your thoughts, or subscribe and continue with the next chapter. Because the final pieces are beginning to connect, and there is still something your soulmate has not fully admitted, even to themselves. Here is the clue. Their happiness increased the moment they realized they were no longer looking at the same version of you they once knew. They are looking at someone who has learned, adapted, and continued forward. And now they understand something surprising. If they want a meaningful place in your future, they cannot approach you with an old mindset. Before you go, hold on to this question. What happens when someone finally recognizes your value at the exact moment you stop needing them to confirm it? That answer is where the next turning point begins. Your soulmate is approaching a decision, but this time, the decision is not simply about feelings. It is about whether they are ready to match the clarity you have finally chosen for yourself. Stay till the end. Something even bigger is waiting beyond that choice. Here is the moment everything quietly clicks into place, because your soulmate has finally understood the one truth they kept missing. Your change was never designed to impress them. You were rebuilding your own direction. You stopped waiting for perfect circumstances before allowing yourself to feel hopeful again. You started trusting your judgment, protecting your peace, and giving your future room to become bigger than one unanswered chapter. And when your soulmate recognized that, something unexpected happened inside them. Instead of feeling left behind, they felt inspired. They saw proof that transformation was possible. Stay a little longer, because the big news hidden inside this entire journey is finally becoming clear. Your soulmate is happier than ever because you finally became willing to move forward without demanding certainty first. That is the missing piece. You chose progress before receiving every answer. You chose confidence before knowing exactly where the road would lead. And that made them reconsider what they truly wanted. For so long, they may have imagined that one perfect conversation would magically solve everything. Now they understand something deeper. The future is created through choices made consistently, not one extraordinary sentence. Don't skip this turning point. They are beginning to ask themselves whether they can bring the same courage, honesty, and clarity into whatever comes next. Not because some invisible force guarantees an outcome, but because your example showed them that waiting forever changes nothing. Then another realization arrived. They remembered the version of you who once questioned whether you were enough, and they compared that memory with the person you are becoming now. The difference surprised them. You are no longer trying to convince anyone to recognize your importance. You are allowing your actions, standards, and direction to speak. That is why their happiness carries something more than excitement. It carries respect. They can imagine standing beside someone who has a future of their own, someone who chooses connection because it adds meaning rather than because they need it to feel complete. And suddenly, your soulmate sees why the timing of this transformation matters. But something huge is still waiting for you. Their realization does not automatically decide your future. You still have choices. They still have choices. And that is precisely what makes the next chapter powerful. Your soulmate may be preparing to communicate differently, but your role is not to freeze your life while wondering when that moment will arrive. Keep moving. Keep building. Keep becoming. If a genuine conversation eventually appears, you will be able to meet it from strength rather than uncertainty. And perhaps that is the biggest news of all. You finally stopped asking the future to prove itself before you started living it. That single shift changed the entire energy of the story. Your soulmate noticed your confidence. They noticed your independence. They noticed the quiet way you stopped fighting for recognition and started creating a life that reflected your own value. Now they are happier because they can finally see what was hidden beneath all the uncertainty. You were never meant to remain exactly where they first found you. Wait till the final moment of this journey, because one question remains unanswered. If your soulmate truly decides to step forward with greater clarity, will they meet the person they remember, or will they discover that you have become someone entirely new? The answer is waiting in what happens next. Something has changed in the way your soulmate imagines the next time your paths cross, and this may be the most unexpected shift yet. They are no longer rehearsing perfect words or searching for some flawless moment. Instead, they are thinking about presence, how differently they would listen, what they would finally understand, and which old assumptions they would leave behind. Because your transformation revealed something important, a meaningful connection cannot survive on imagination alone. It needs two people willing to meet reality with honesty. Stay a little longer, because the realization that followed made your soulmate see your entire journey through a completely different lens. They finally recognized that you did not become stronger by forgetting what mattered. You became stronger by refusing to let uncertainty control what happened next. That distinction means everything. You allowed yourself to grow without needing to erase every memory, and your soulmate can sense the difference. Now, when they think about you, they do not simply remember the person they once knew. They imagine the person you are becoming. Someone with plans. Someone with standards. Someone who can appreciate connection while still protecting their own direction. Don't skip this part, because that picture has awakened an important question inside them. If they were given another meaningful opportunity to speak with you, could they meet this new version of you with equal maturity? Then the answer started forming, not as a promise, but as an intention. They want to become clearer, more consistent, More willing to say what they mean instead of expecting you to interpret silence. And strangely, this is where their happiness becomes even deeper. They are discovering that growth does not have to mean losing someone. Sometimes growth simply reveals what kind of connection is actually worth creating. Something huge is waiting for you here, because your soulmate has stopped imagining a return to yesterday. They are imagining an introduction to tomorrow. But notice what makes this chapter different. Your future is no